Hello everyone. So today we are going to tackle the part 2 of chapter 14, neuropsychological assessment. So let's begin. So these are the topics. First is the neuropsychological test. So these are different tests. First is test of general intellectual ability, test to measure the ability to abstract, test of executive function, test of perceptual motor function, test of verbal functioning, and lastly, the test of memory. Next is the neuropsychological test batteries, which are the flexible battery, fixed neuropsychological test batteries, Halstead neuropsychological battery. And lastly is the other tools of neuropsychological assessment, which is the functional MRI or the fRMI. Okay, now let's define what is neuropsychological test. Okay, from the word itself, neuropsychological. So this is science concerned with the integration of psychological observations on behavior and the mind with neurological observations on the brain and nervous system. Okay, so and lastly is the test. So we are going to talk about the different test no sa mga that it has like the brain activity that you know that affects the behavior like that. So researchers may employ neuropsychological tests to gauge change in mental status or other variables as a result of the administration of medication or the onset of a disease or disorder. So especially if the person has disorder, so mulahi dyan na iyang brain activity. And if mulahi iyang brain activity, mulahi po iyang behavior. So that is why the researchers conduct tests. Okay, and also for medication, this one, if naba improvement or how many years or months na ni-effect ang isa ka medication. And also, this neuropsychological test is very applicable sa mga forensic, kaning sa mga forensic evaluation. For example, why did the criminal kanang do that? For example, nga na, so pag i-test ang isa ka person sa neuropsychological test and it resulted to disorder, for example, the antisocial disorder. So, most likely jud na mag-commit na siya og crime, right? So nga na, uh so another one is if pag-commit ba niya crime, na ba siya sane ba siya or kuan siya or kana wala siya sa tamang pag-iisip. So that's why neuropsychological test is very important because it could identify the issue or the problems why a person did that o ingana. And in this topic we are going to talk about uh, different tests of neuropsychological test. So first we're going to tackle about the test of general intellectual ability. So it is under of neuropsychological test. Okay, so we have here the Wechsler test. So it occupy a prominent position among the diagnostic tools available to the neuropsychologists. So the Wechsler test, nani siya mga sub-test. Okay, so for example, in one of the sub-tests, the test taker has poor or difficulty in concentration, so it does mean something. So maybe he has or he has something in his brain activity that makes him um, that makes him have a hard time in concentration during the test. So, because certain patterns of test response indicate particular deficits, the examiner looks beyond performance on individual tests to a study of the pattern of test scores, a process term, a process term pattern analysis. Okay, so for example, ang examiner or ang test taker has a very low, poor performance on the block design. So block design is a kind of test. But the other subtest niya is high score ang iyang verbal subtest. Okay, so diri na mo sulod ang pattern analysis. So this means that ang iyang data is meaning atong poor block design performance. It could indicate that he or she has a damage in the right hemisphere. That's why also she can't concentrate during the test. But very good naman siya sa verbal na mga subtest. So that is pattern analysis. Okay, so gina-trace niya, gina-compare niya ang scores sa ahang low and high performance. Okay, and then indicated to which unsa ang mga issues regarding ana na mga result. So next, we have the test to measure the ability to abstract. So when we say abstract, diba, familiar man taani ka ng when, for example, entrance exam sa mga universities. So, di ba, ginapatake tag mga psychological test and di dyan mawala in abstract. Because the abstract test, it could it could measure your critical thinking, di ba, sa abstract test. To successfully complete abstract reasoning test, you need to be able to think creatively and use lateral thinking to solve problems. No, you need to see the relationship between shapes and figures, identify rules and similarities, and quickly apply these to identify the answers. So mo na mga mo nang need nila sa school o mga ingani, no, so to assess the student. But also it has tests in neuropsychological test. Okay, na ay mga measurement the ability to abstract. Okay, so first we have here the Wechsler similarity subtest. No, so the task in this subtest is to identify how two objects are alike. So as you can see in the picture, we have orange and a ball. So what do diri na mosulod ang abstract, no? So how are they alike and how are they different? Okay, for example, sa alike, they are both round, right? So sa color po, but medyo luto lang na pagka-orange ang ball. And while sa differences, ang orange makaon ang bola dili. So, lucky for you that you can identify the the differences and similarities of this test. But katong mga mga neurological deficits, they can't really identify the similarities. Okay, so because one symptom commonly associated with neuropsychological deficit, regardless of the site or exact cause of the problem, is inability or lessened ability to think abstractly. So diba, they cannot identify. So some people who have neuropsychological deficit, they could not identify which is right and wrong. So that's why sa mga, di ba ka sa mga court, nanay kuan if mentally stable or not ang isa ka isa ka defendant before before jud hatulan, di ba? So naingana, they cannot think what is right and wrong. So in this simple test, no, they could the examiner could see if nabay mga difficulty in understanding or identifying similarities between two objects. So next is the Winscoin card sorting test, 64 card version. So this is test taker will sort a pack of 64 cards that contain different geometric figures printed in different colors. So as you can see here in the picture, we have different shapes, right? Natay triangle, star, cross, and lastly the circles. Okay. The cards are to be sorted according to matching rules that must be inferred and that shifts as the test progresses. So, ginamatch niya ang same shape, right? Sa mga same mga figures. Okay. So, pag successful ni na performance, no? So, na siya good ang iyang frontal lobe functioning. So, sa frontal lobe manggod na dira ang concentration. So, she can or he can concentrate well, right? So, the planning. So, saan niya pag match ang shapes, organization. So, giunsa niya tong pag match sa kung tayo color man or shapes ingana. So cognitive flexibility in shifting set, also na sa frontal lobe functioning on working memory and inhibition of impulsive responding. Okay, the test may be useful in screening for neurological impairment with or without suspected injury of the frontal lobe. But we must have caution, okay, when using this or similar test. Okay, so we need caution when using this because some evidence suggests that the test may erroneously indicate neurological impairment when in reality the test taker has schizophrenia or a mood disorder. Okay, so where if sa mga future professional researchers or mga sa examiner, we must be cautious in doing test, especially this similarity test. Okay, so as you can observe, ang ginakuan niya kay ang mga similarities unsa iyang mga pagkapari-pariha. So because we are talking about abstract, okay? Okay. Third test is the test of executive functioning. So, this means it defined as organizing, planning, cognitive flexibility, and inhibition of impulses, and related activities associated with the frontal and prefrontal lobes of the brain. So, one example here is the clock drawing test. So, here we have the money ang gidrawing sa healthy individual, money ang sa Alzheimer's, and this is the Parkinson's na individual. So as you can see there, the importance of drawing, we can see the importance of drawing here because sometimes it could reflect our brain activity, sa functioning. Okay, now we are talking about functioning here. So the task with the hands of the clock indicating a particular time, such as 10 minutes after 11. So, poor performance on the CDT has also been associated with visual memory deficits. Okay, so nadyo difference. For example, kining Alzheimer's, dili round ang iyang clock, while sa Parkinson's, it's, makakita pag mga erasures and kanang we can see 0 there in this one. So imbis na 12, while sa Alzheimer's kay wala siya kanang long and short hands, so wala siya yung ani. So Alzheimer's is, diba, that that is associated with kanang forgetful ka. So maybe he forgot to put that. So that is the importance of drawing, you know, because it could identify your the poor performance. Okay, so it could also, the CDT here also been associated with mild cognitive impairment and losses in function that ostensibly result with aging. Yeah. So, mostly sa clock drawing test is for the elders, for the elder people. Diba? Kasagaran kay sila man tong medyo deteriorate na ilang brain functioning, right? So, unlike sa ato mga young people na very abtik pa, but some of us also, young people, could also, have memory deficits. So that's why, but the CDT, mostly dyan kay mga elderly people, because of they cannot function well sa ilang mga brain brain activity that could also affect their behavior. So that's it for test executive functioning. One example is the clock drawing test. Okay, so next slide. Okay. Okay, so these are the 4 samples, no, in neurological assessment. So under gihapon ni siya sa functioning, sa executive functioning. So first we have here the trail making test. So the trail making test, the test taker task is to connect the dots in a logical fashion. For example, 1 here, 2 there, and 3 and 4 there. Oh, so my God, neurological I don't have neurological deficit for it. Okay, wait lang. I don't have that. Okay, let me try again. So 1A, 1A, 2B, 3C, and 4D. So that's how you do it. So logical fashion. So 1 is to A and 2 is to B. Okay, like that. So that is a trail making test. Okay, so the number 2 is the fields of search. After being shown a sample stimulus, the test taker task is to locate a match as quickly as possible. So this one is the stimulus, no? So pang locate na niya ang mga the same. So this is a cross, as quickly as possible. Cross, we have here the minus or like that, and we have that. Okay, so that is how we do the fields of search. Okay, so match as quickly as possible. So next is an identification task, a task that involves what is known as confrontation naming. So for us normal people, we can say that it is a dog. So we can identify it as a dog because of the tail, for legs and ears. Even though the tiger has, they have tails, they have four legs, and though they have eyes and they have nose, they have mouth, but we can still identify them from dogs because we function well, right? Unlike sa mga taong na mga neurological deficit, they could they have difficulty in in you know in identifying which is which. Muna ditong sa ability to abstract. Right, okay. So for example, okay, so lastly is a picture absurdity. So, okay, I don't know if you notice, but here this is um this is a baseball, right? But they use here um a racket, badminton racket. So that is a picture of absurdity. The test taker answers questions such as what's wrong or silly about this picture. So the silly thing about this picture is that they are not using the proper equipment or the proper equipment in the sports. So we cannot use badminton racket when playing baseball. So those are the sample items in neurological assessment. So items, we're talking about items. So the fourth test is the test of perceptual motor and perceptual motor function. So giisa ra ni sila diri. So first is the perceptual test. It generates reference to many instruments and procedures used to evaluate various aspects of sensory functioning. So we have 5 senses in perceptual test. No, so test diri ang sight, hearing, smell, touch, taste, and balance. So that is under the perceptual test. So the motor test, from the word itself, motor, these are sa mga lihok nato sa mga actions. Okay? So the general reference to any of many instruments and procedures used to evaluate varied aspects of one's ability and mobility, including the ability to move limbs, eyes, or other parts of the body. So the walk is um, the walk the walk is an example of motor activity. Okay, the anything that has movement or mobility. Okay, in eyes, diba we have test in eyes, the rapid eye test, right? We have like that. So that is motor test, and this one is perceptual motor test. So gimurag combine diri ang senses, the 5 senses, no, the sight, hearing, smell, touch, taste, and balance into combine into our mobility. So this is the general reference to any of instrument and procedures used to evaluate the integration of coordination of perceptual and motor abilities. So for example, ani is the jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so aside from jigsaw, we use our hands to para mabuo ang jigsaw puzzle, and also we are using our eyes. So here we have hand-eye coordination. Okay, so that is that the definition of perceptual motor function. Okay, so next is we have sila mga test atong perceptual motor and perceptual motor function. Okay, so Webman, auditor, discriminant, this is under the perceptual test. Okay, because of the auditory. Okay, remember that auditory is one of the 5 senses under the perceptual test. Okay, so the examiner read a list of 40 pairs of monosyllabus meaningful words such as must or much, pronouns with lips covered. Okay, so kay auditory man diri so the examiner will, like, for example, the must and much. So what is the difference? Okay, so whether those two words are same or not. So for us normal people, we can, if we have uh, a kanang good pa na auditory sense, so we can say that mass and much are different, while to those who have like hinay o pandungog, they can say that it is the same. Okay na po uban na lahi lang madunggan. So yan. So but when conducting this test, the examiner must dili gani yango pagkaingon ang iyang mga words. Dili po heavy accent. For example, this must be water, but yung giingon sa examiner is water. For example, scotch tape, pero ang giingon sa examiner is scotch tape. So imbis na walay neurological deficit ang test taker, mahimo na lang noon kay mo man madungog, right? So dapat dili heavy accent ang pagkabigkas, dili pod for example murag nagkaon, dili gani pasabtan. So that's it. Kay pasin lahi yung madungog, mahimo na nung na siya daot sa no auditory part of the brain. Okay, so that's it. What else is the example? Bowl and ball, right? So bowl and ball. Okay, so those things are different. Okay, so next is we have Bruinin's Oseretsky test of motor proficient. So from the word itself, motor. Okay, so this is designed for use with children age 4 and 1/2 to 14 and 1/2. This instrument includes subtests that assess running speed and agility, balance, strength, response speed, and dexterity. Okay, so mo na meaning sa Bruinins or Oseretsky test. Okay, so nadira ang balance, strength, response speed, and dexterity. So next is the Bender Visual Motor Gestalt test. That is not TESI. I'm sorry for that. So that is the test consisted of 9 cards, on each of which was printed one design. Test taker were shown each of the cards in turn and instructed copy it as best as you can. So this the design has been used by psychologist Max Wertheimer in his study of the perception of Gestalten. Okay, so Bender believes this design could be used to assess perceptual maturation and neurological impairment. Okay, so although there was no time limit, unusually long or short test times were considered to be of diagnostic significance. Average administration time for all 9 designs was about 5 minutes, a fact which also contributed to its wide appeal among test users. Okay, so that is for the test of perceptual motor function. So the fifth test is the test of verbal functioning. Okay, verbal fluency and fluency in writing are sometimes affected by injury to the brain, and there are tests to assess the extent of the deficit in such skills. So for those who people have dementia or Alzheimer's, they can't really, identify things. Makalimutan na sila. For example, makalimutan sila kung sa'y tawag what kung asa sila dapit na lugar. So they have difficulty in identifying things or places. So that's why we have tests for that, controlled word association test. Okay, The examiner says a letter of the alphabet, and then it is the subject task to say as many words as he or she can think of that begin with that letter. For example, the C. So what can you think of any words? For me, it's cat. What else? Crush. Crayon. Candle. Color. Cabinet. Korean char. May lagat ng Korean. So it's K. So that's it for the controlled words association test. So nana siya. So each of three trials employs three different letters. So first trial is, for example, K, Korea, um, kite, like that. So the second trial um, we have Z. Murag daghan ang Z. Z, zebra, Zion, zinc, like that. So the third is okay. Okay, in the last 1 minute, the test taker's final score on the test reflects the total numbers of correct words produced, weighted by factors such as gender, age, and education of the test taker. So, for example, if age sa bata is like 5, so kamay ra pud yung depende sa yang kano IQ. So if daghan ba or gamay yung ma-produce, but most likely kamay ra jud sa bata ng mga iyan edad. Then sa education, yes, it could be a factor if daghan siya ma-produce kay syempre the more na daghan kay nahibal-an ng mga words, so the more pod na taas yung scores. Okay, so controlled word association test scores are related in the predicted direction to the ability of dementia patients to complete tasks of daily living, such as using the telephone or writing a check. So, di ba, kanang ang mga people with the dementia, they forgot who kanang kasi tawagan because they forgot who is that person, what is his or her number. So, in writing a check also, basta they they have really poor performance in remembering. So and also people with dementia tend to do poorly on the test as compared with controls. The differences observed have not seen significant enough to justify using the test as an indicator of dementia. Okay, so it could not be an indicator of dementia. Okay, uh, even though ang mga dementia people can do poorly here. Okay, so but the test is not an indicator of dementia. Okay, it may be in another factor, maybe stress. So next, not to be confused with aphasia and aphasia. Okay, at a verbal test, So aphasia is a condition in which the ability to eat is lost or diminished, while aphasia refers to a loss of ability to express oneself or to understand spoken or written language because of some neurological deficit. Okay. For example, ani na test for to develop being developed to measure aspect of yes aspect. So the aspect of aphasia. Okay, kini siya sa aphasia ni siya. Sulat-sulat. Okay, so that so measure aphasia is the written Indiana aphasia screening test or the AST, or that is written. Okay, let's just say that it is written. Indiana aphasia screening test or the AST is available in both a child and an adult form, contain a variety of tasks such as naming common objects, following verbal instructions, writing familiar words. Okay. Okay, factor analysis has suggested that this task load onto two factors: language abilities and coordination involved in writing words or drawing objects. Okay, both forms of the test were designed to be screening devices that can be administered in 15 minutes or less. Okay, use alone as a screening tool or in combination with other tests. Okay, so for example, what object is this? That is a stone. What object is this? That is a pencil. What object is this? Okay, so naiba na makalimot. But that object was, uh, even in a panaginip tayo, wedding ring, their own wedding ring, even their own property, they have difficulty in remembering that. Okay, so that is, which is, I think, right, an Indiana facial screening test is a very good test. Okay, so um that's it for test of verbal functioning.